Ancient Greece had its fair share of deadly creatures and monsters, both on land and sea. If I were to ask you to name the first Greek sea monster that comes to mind, it's likely that many of you would say Scylla. But just opposite the cliffs that Scylla called her home, in the Straits of Messina, deep in the ocean, was an enormous whirlpool created by Charybdis, a gargantuan sea monster that plagued the coast of Italy for years on end. Charybdis may be how we pronounce her name now, but in ancient Greek it was pronounced Charybdis, and many believed her name to have originated from the Greek word meaning to swallow. The creature was said to be so large that she consumed so much water, when she belched it created an enormous whirlpool. The exact size of this whirlpool is never mentioned, but for it to have been big enough to swallow up an entire Greek ship, it's been estimated that it would have had to have been over 75 feet across. Interestingly enough, the area where the monster is located, in the Straits of Messina, does actually contain a whirlpool, but this one is caused by the currents meeting, and it's too small to cause any real danger. There are several stories that attempt to discuss the origins of Charybdis, the oldest being that she was a daughter of Gaia, the personification of the earth, and Pontus, the sea. In the years that followed, her father was naturally seen as Poseidon, as he became the ruler of the sea. Charybdis always remained loyal to Poseidon, and during a feud between Zeus and Poseidon over land, she aided her father, engulfing small islands and large patches of land in water. This of course left Zeus furious that land had been stolen from him, so he captured Charybdis and chained her to the seabed. He then cursed her into the form of a hideous monster, with flippers for arms and legs and an uncontrollable thirst for the sea. The fact that she was transformed into a hideous monster by Zeus makes it more than likely that she could have been one of the Oceanids, one of the nymphs of the sea. There is a similar story where she is instead portrayed as a greedy woman who chose to steal the cattle of Heracles. Zeus with a single thunderbolt once again cast her into the sea, where she would literally become a whirlpool. The physical appearance of Charybdis, as we've already seen, has changed over the years. Some believe that she was nothing more than a personification of a whirlpool, a way for the ancient Greeks to explain this act of nature. Other stories describe her as a human that was transformed into a monster, an occurrence that is not too uncommon in Greek mythology, but exactly what this monster looked like can be left down to your imagination. Some saw her as an enormous whale-like creature, and to others Charybdis resembled something that you'd expect to see in the work of H.P. Lovecraft, an enormous gaping mouth with gigantic teeth waiting to swallow anything that came her way. With Charybdis being such a great monster of the sea, as one would expect, she does appear in several noticeable works and stories. In Homer's work The Odyssey, Odysseus finds himself in quite a precarious position, in between Charybdis and Scylla. Odysseus ordered his men to avoid Charybdis, as that would result in their ship being swallowed, so instead they passed through Scylla, and after losing several men they were forced to pass near Charybdis anyway. The ship was sucked into her jaws, and Odysseus clung onto a fig tree. Eventually when Charybdis exhaled, the boat was released, and after recovering it, Odysseus made his way to safety. Charybdis does also feature in the story of Jason and the Argonauts, who were also faced with this impossible task, in travelling through the narrow passage, with Charybdis on one side and Scylla on the other. In this story, however, the goddess Hera ordered the mother of Achilles, Thetis, to guide them to safety. These two sea monsters being so close to each other creates this narrow pathway, which essentially acts as a death trap. Sailors would come across Charybdis living under a rock in the narrow channel of Messina, and Scylla on the opposite side, on the much larger cliffs of Scylla. This meant that sailors passing through would have to choose which of the two dangers they would rather face. Many liken the term between Scylla and Charybdis to between a rock and a hard place, which refer to someone being faced with two equally undesirable alternatives, which is exactly what these two monsters presented. This then created the near impossible task for sailors to chart a course that avoids both of these monsters without delaying their voyage. With so many stories and interpretations of how Charybdis came to be and what exactly she looked like, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below.